Hey, Scott Jordan and Mark Warner for Jancast number 114, Thursday, December 16th, 2021. The month's almost over, Mark.
Yeah, it's hard to believe not only the month is almost over, Scott, the whole year is almost over.
Crazy time stuff. So the last show we were discussing whether or not you say Omicron or Omicron, or what's the other way of saying it?
Omicron?
Omicron, yeah.
Omicron.
Yes.
Microbrewery beer.
Yes. And if you haven't gotten it before, it's a West Coast IPA, 6.5% alcohol. So it's a good item. This glass is obviously going to be a collector's item at some point.
The Omicron glass. So, the good news is that when it comes to Omicron beer, there's no supply chain issues on that, Scott.
That's
but
right.
There's supply chain issues on everything else.
Yeah, well, we try to report on supply chain issues since we started this whole thing whenever we started it. And the big one right now that I saw come up on the news feed was if you ordered Victoria's Secret's holiday products, including fancy pajamas, etc., they're sitting off the coast on all those container ships, right? 50% of their company's holiday merchandise is stuck in transit.
I heard that 50% of the sailors on those freighters are running around the decks wearing Victoria's Secret garments.
Don't wipe that out.
You want to think of that, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing, right?
Oh, no. We've got lots more. I mean, on our end, as we've said before, it seems like a lot of things have come back into supply. They just are ridiculously more expensive. But in this particular one, I don't know if you've heard about it, but cream cheese is in shortage, particularly Philadelphia cream cheese, which is, I didn't realize that is obviously the dominant brand, but all these bagel places, the article I saw was there's a company in New York that not only does cream cheese for bagels, but they also make junior cheesecakes, which they use 40,000 pounds of cream cheese a day. 40,000 pounds of cream cheese. That must be like a rail car of cream cheese. I have no idea. How do they transport 40,000 pounds of cream cheese?
I have no idea.
Well, there's a shortage. Apparently, it's going to take up to 3 months for it to level off. So the other shortage, that I noticed during Thanksgiving, and if you haven't been to the market yet, get your cream cheese when you can, but Fritos are really hard to get. So I stocked up on Fritos. I admit it.
A hoarder.
Full transparency. I am a Fritos hoarder. I have 2 bags. Only 2. I could eat them myself though. So I'm not really, I don't have like a garage full of them. But for those that want Fritos for Christmas, you better get them soon because they're hard to get.
That's moderately disturbing, but
your choice was you could find plenty of Cheetos flavored for Fritos, but who wants that?
Not when you could have a Frito.
Yeah.
But AKA the Frito Bandito Jordan.
Well, on a more serious note, for supply chain and distributors, you found an interesting one about hand sanitizers, right?
Yeah, well, very interesting. The hand sanitizer industry got a boon in early 2020, and the reason for it was that about the only protection we had in early 2020 were masks and hand sanitizer, right? Yeah. So all the alcohol distilleries were given emergency approval to produce alcohol-based hand sanitizers. And this past week, it was revoked. So the ability for these alcohol distilleries to be able to continue to produce alcohol-based hand sanitizer is gone. So it's effective December 31st, 2021, and they have until the end of March to either consume or destroy existing stock. At that point, it's no longer going to be considered to be FDA approved.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of important news. And in the early days of 2020, certainly everybody was preoccupied with alcohol-based hand sanitizers, thinking that might be the only thing to go on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of studies going on that are actually helping to document the efficacy of non-alcohol based hand sanitizers, which are a little bit more pleasant to work with.
Yeah, which is,
So I think
that's our Airx 200, the BZK based, non-alcohol.
that was just like such a
That was a
subtle
blatant
play.
product plug there. Sorry.
So, but anyway, that's interesting that, the alcohol hand sanitizer market that got flooded with all these. I remember going into a mini market, Scott, and I saw hand sanitizer in a black motor oil quart bottle, right? And it said alcohol hand sanitizer on it, but it was in a black plastic oil quart bottle. I'm like, well, who in the world would really buy that? But so it was kind of amazing what was going on in the early days of 2020.
Yeah. Well, I was at Home Depot last weekend getting something, and they had a couple pallets of hand sanitizer, 16-ounce bottles, 25 cents a bottle.
Yeah, so they're probably responding as well to this mandate by the FDA to revoke the approvals. What are you going to do with it once you get past those dates, right? I'm not sure.
Most hand sanitizers do have an expiration date on them too. Aside from this particular ruling, typically it's 2 years, but this supersedes that, I would imagine. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because other forms of alcohol don't, they get better with age.
So does this mean the cost of Tito's vodka is going to come down?
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of where I was going with that.
Hey, happy holidays.
As Scotch whiskey becomes more and more valuable the older it gets, but obviously alcohol-based hand sanitizer becomes less and less valuable the older it gets. So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. But it's kind of amazing because beyond a year ago, Scott, this wouldn't even be a conversation, right? The whole thing. Or you go back to literally December of 2019 was when we were all starting to hear about what happened in Wuhan, China. With the outbreak of this coronavirus that was spreading like wildfire. And we called it coronavirus back then. And it developed the name of SARS-CoV-2, and the disease developed the name of COVID-19 because it emerged in 2019, but it really didn't impact the United States until the first case in Seattle, which was January or February of 2020. So, you and I were talking about that, like, wow, it feels like that was so long ago. But as it turned out, when it started impacting and spreading over the United States from its first documented appearance in January or February of 2020. March was the shutdown of the United States. And we went for, like, you have some interesting statistics on this, which is fascinating to me, because we went for almost 9 months with no form of protection other than masks and hand sanitizer. And disinfecting everything that we could see. And then your statistic on the emergency use authorization is fantastic.
It was December 11th of 2020. The FDA approved it under those guidelines, emergency use. And then the first vaccine was given to Sandra Lindsay in New York City. I think she was a hospital worker, or she was given it at a hospital, and she got the first vaccination. So that was December 14th of 2020, which you're right. It seems like it was a lot longer ago than that. Amazing.
We actually, we were talking before the broadcast, and it seems like somehow time warped a little bit, because it doesn't seem like we've only had vaccine as a protection for only 12 months. It just seems like it's been the COVID times just seem longer than that. But interesting little anniversary date this week in history. Was the first vaccine.
And We've certainly learned a lot about the transmission of the virus since then. We were talking at our sales meeting on Monday about one of those stats that you found that I thought was mind-boggling as far as transmission
Yeah,
potential.
well, what's interesting is that the Florida Atlantic University did a study on what happens when you sneeze. And literally, a sneeze comes out of your body at 100 miles an hour.
Hmm.
100, like that's like stunning.
Yeah.
And which is why you don't want to really stand in front of somebody while they're sneezing without covering their mouth, right? Got a 100-mile-an-hour blast of saliva, but it can actually travel through the air as far as 27 feet.
Yeah, that's just amazing. So if somebody sneezes and you're relatively close to them, you can't possibly run away from it because who can run 100 miles an hour?
Yeah, yeah. So MIT got involved with this study too, and it boiled down to, is 6 feet really enough? If somebody is actually sick and presenting with symptoms. But yeah, who can run 27 feet at 100 miles an hour? You're not out running a sneeze, right?
Yeah.
So pretty crazy. And then it got into, I don't know, Scott, you and I go down these like rabbit holes on research, and
Yep.
it became, well, who sneezes further, who's the super spreader? So there were some other studies that went on, and a TV station in Orlando, Florida was doing a study like, well, who sneezes further, men or women, and it turned out that the true super spreader is the men. It's like, what? Like, what? How's that work? Well, it turns out that men have thinner saliva than women. Who knew that?
Yeah.
But thin saliva sprays out further than thick saliva. So then you and I were like, well, why is that?
I said it's because of the Corona beer they're drinking, which also ties in with the coronavirus as well. Obviously,
no.
One of our top downloaded shows featuring the Corona beer.
No. So
No?
the Corona beer consumption has not been documented as a contributor to thinner saliva.
Just a theory.
It's a good theory. I kind of like it. But
I was thinking about going to medical school.
The actual science is that men actually just have a larger saliva gland.
Yeah.
So that's why they produce more. The more you produce, the thinner it is. And who knew that? But it's kind of interesting because then everybody started going like, well, how do we what do we do about that? So then some researchers said, well, we're going to make a cough drop that thickens thin saliva. And it works like a mask to thicken up saliva. So if you sneeze, it can't really spray out. And they're saying it could be on the market by the end of next year.
Don't even need it. You don't need it because
what's next?
I'm a big fan of the internet. I'm looking around for stuff that we can talk about, and I came upon the site germwashing.com, which is featuring a whole thing about, can Listerine kill COVID? Because there's a senator from Wisconsin apparently has made a statement that the recommended mouthwash is a treatment for coronavirus at a town hall meeting. So obviously was met with some disbelief. Not exactly sure why, but it's got to be real if it's on germwashing.com.
Well, actually germwashing.com is what puts a light on fictitious claims.
That's right.
So, in this particular instance, the way to go after COVID with Listerine is to snort it because it exists up in your nose. Just for the record, Scott, what's Listerine saying about all this?
Listerine said that it is, while it has some germ killing ability, it's not going to do anything against COVID. So just to make it clear, but we at Airx Laboratories, leaders in pathogen control products, and well known throughout the world for our groundbreaking work in all kinds of germ killing. We've decided that we're going to get on the bandwagon, and we are coming out with this new product, Airx Refresh Antiseptic Mouthwash. So, and it's in a quart bottle. This happens to be the mint version. We are going to have a ocean spray and a couple other versions, but so coming soon. So any distributors looking for exclusive on this can contact us, and we'll give you some details. It'll roll out after the first of the year.
Yep, and it's it's designed to go after COVID. Of course, it's not FDA, USDA, or EPA approved in any way, shape, or form.
Not ADA, not approved by the ADA currently. We're trying to check. We're trying to check into what the cost is for that.
Yeah. So the other thing you got to watch for is probably should not operate heavy equipment after so anyway, that's a new and innovative approach to what maybe we can do for next year. Change the world, right, Scott?
Yeah. So
you remember back in the day, our tradition was on our last Jancast of the year, we'd always talk about our wish list.
Yep. I had one where I wanted to invent a chairlift that wasn't connected to a cable, and you would just tell it where you wanted it to go, and it would just instantly shoot you to the top of the mountain, and you just hop off. You didn't have to worry about lift lines or anything.
With drones, at some point, I could see that being a reality, right?
Yeah. And you had one too, didn't you, Mark?
Yeah, my wish list was grass that would only grow 2 inches tall, so I wouldn't have to mow every week of the summer. But anyway, to fulfill that whole tradition, I think the wish that we were both talking about for this coming year is the wish to be free of COVID, and that people can, live safely and go back to the kind of lives that we all want. So that's pretty generous,
Yep, I agree. I mean, we like to have fun while we're reporting the news, but this is obviously a serious thing that, yes, it would be fantastic if we could go back to, remember back in the day, we used to do the show with the masks on, because, we were kind of sitting next to each other, and we've at least made some progress there. And with being vaccinated and everything else, we're not in the same room now, but, back in the day, we had to worry about that stuff. So let's hope for 2022 will be a significant change for the better on all of these subjects that we talk about.
I agree. So our wish is COVID free and a safe life in 2022.
Yep. So thank you very much for tuning in. This is our last show of the year. We'll be returning after we have a little break here at Bullen while we do inventory and machine maintenance and stuff like that. We'll be back right after the first of the year, and we will have a show coming in early January.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot for tuning in. And don't forget, if you want some, get your orders in early. See y'all.
Bye.